can be changed and broken and everything else. But the laws that God sets up, gravity, whatever, they're there. And they work whether we want them to or not. And we can't change them, and you can't suspend the law of gravity long enough for me to jump off a cliff down to where take a shortcut to where I want to get down to the ground, But it's set up to do a certain thing, and in this case, it was to bear fruit. And that word good, okay, he saw that it was good. Tob. It's a neat word. It means good as an adjective, okay? But it can be masculine, feminine, okay? It can be singular, plural. It can be anything it needs to be. And some of the words that it means is beautiful, best, better, bountiful, cheerful, at ease. I like that one. In favor, fine, glad, good, gracious, kindly, kindness, liketh, best, loving, merry, pleasant, pleases, pleasure, precious, prosperity, ready, sweet, health, welfare, well-favored. You can't beat that, right? And if I would add one more, I'd say take one of the O's out, and it's God. All that stuff is God. And so I liked science, I liked learning how things happen and everything. And it's amazing because man keeps trying to figure God out through science. But, well, I don't. Yeah, there was some science right there waiting to happen. My sister-in-law, Debbie, was in the marching band, and Luann and Karen were in the same marching band. I don't know if the same teacher was there at the same time or not. But, the saying is practice makes perfect, but only if you're doing it right. If you're doing it wrong, this teacher said, practice makes permanent. I don't know if you girls remember him saying that or if you had the same teacher at the same time or not. But practice makes permanent. So if you're doing it wrong and you keep doing it wrong and you practice doing it wrong, guess what? You got a wrong thing going. And so if we go drop down, we're not on yet. Genesis 1, and then just go to 28. Yes, please. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful, okay? He's saying this to Adam and Eve and to all that he created, everything. Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. A whole bunch of people out here don't want to subdue the earth, but we got to do it the right way. Okay? You can't just use rivers for toilets and keep dumping your junk in it. And so subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Okay? And so that's something he set up. We're supposed to be doing this stuff. One of the words for fruit means a reward. Remember we were talking about that? If you have a garden, when it's time to harvest some stuff, it's a reward, right? And at some point, God's going to come to each one of us individually and later on and corporately, and he's going to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter into my rest. Right? That's what it says. Okay? Remember I told you I like to go out in the garden when that first big tomato comes? And I wipe it off because there's always a little bit of grit on it, and I take a big lick on it. So the salt, I take the salt shaker with me out into the garden, and I put a big lick on it so the first salt will stick, And then I take a big bite out of it. Ah, it's heaven. It's great, right? And I imagine God taking me and taking a big bite out of me and going, that's what I'm talking about. Okay? Well done, thou good and faithful servant. And so he's looking for this fruit, and we'll see when we get into the New Testament that husbandman is waiting for that. But that word for fruit, one of the words it means is reward. So that's your reward for all your hard work, is what you get, the production, the fruit out of the garden, right? And so it's a lot of work. Now think about this. There are so many things that are fruit, okay, that we don't even think about them being fruit. But a baby is fruit. It goes along the same route that plants do. And it has a seed and it grows, okay, until it matures to the point where it can produce seed. Well, at first, that baby's a lot of work. It's always a lot of work, even when they grow up. But, the waking up at 3 a.m. to feed it or change it or something, whatever, it's sick, you got to take it to the doctor, and you love it so much. These things are burdensome, but you love it so much it's not a burden, right? And eventually, that kid's a reward, okay? As it's growing up, you're watching it grow, you're helping it grow, you're teaching it. It crawls, it stands up. Each one of those stages are a neat thing to see. Even if you got 10 kids, it's neat to see each one do that. The first one, of course, is like, wow, I didn't, you just didn't know. But eventually you come to a point where in your life where you go, how did I ever live without that person before? And it's that reward. I mean, the first time it says mama or daddy or whoever, there's always a competition to see who will get the first recognition, or what I call playing ping pong with the kid. Come to daddy, and you flip it around. Come to mommy, flip it around. Come to daddy. How long are they going to do this? Till I get 16 or what? But you have fun doing it, right? It's a reward. And then you watch them grow up and, become something. There was a lady who used to work at the Spiker Ford there in Milford. Her name was Robin. And we were talking one day. She's checking in the cars. And I said, how you doing? She goes, oh, well, my son just graduated from high school. She goes, she was in that stage where you're mixed feelings because, it grew up, but now it might leave or something on you. And she goes, I feel good, but I can't describe the word, And I said, you feel fulfilled. She goes, that's it. And I go, you did all that, and now it bears fruit, and you saw it. And that's what God's looking for in us, All we need to do is receive everything God has for us and cooperate and let Him help us grow, because these things are set up. They're set up ahead of time, and all you got to do is join into it. You know, God's an architect. He already has the plan. And so, when I was in science class, any of the sciences, biology, botany, zoology, any of that, if there was a guy or person that wasn't too bright, you know, we'd refer to them as they can outthink a plant, but only over short distances. And it meant they weren't too smart. A plant is actually pretty smart because the Lord set up all this stuff and it does it. Okay? Take a corn seed, take any seed, mustard seed, you plant it in the ground. You have to stand there and go, now you know you got to start growing. It does it without any help from me. Why? Because God set it up. And nobody knows what sparks that thing to start doing what it does. Okay? The seed, the egg in Mary, what sparked it to start growing? Well, normally it would have been a man, but in this case, it was the Holy Spirit. It sparked that life into life. And science has been trying to duplicate it and everything. They can say it happens, but they can't make it happen. They can't figure out how. So, so you take that seed and you plant it in the ground. Okay, now if you usually get a package of seeds, you know, and on it it'll say how far down in the ground to plant it. If you plant it in too far, there's not enough food in the seed itself to get it to break through the earth and then start photosynthesis. So you have to put it in the ground, and that's like the earnest of the Spirit. He gives everybody a shot of that to get you going. And then you get forth and you get into the area of the photosynthesis, which he set up. You take water, you take carbon dioxide, you take minerals in the earth, and then you get sunlight. So you got carbon dioxide and water and all these different things together, and you use the sun to be the energy source, and poof, it makes glucose. Okay? What's glucose? It's the simplest of all the sugars, and we got it in us. If you got too much like me, you got a problem with it. But glucose, and that causes it to have energy to grow. He set all this up. And what happens? Then you get a reward. If you're the gardener, okay? Paul said that he finished his course. He kept the faith. Henceforth is laid up for me a reward. Okay? But he went through a lot of stuff, but every part of it caused him to grow and produce fruit. It's hard to produce fruit when there's a lot of things coming against it, but it's possible because God set it up that way. I mean, did you ever notice some kind of plant growing up through the asphalt? I mean, it'll just bust through. I don't know how a soft leaf busts through something hard like that, but life is so powerful, we don't understand how powerful it is, but it does. And so, in that instance, a plant is pretty smart because there's a whole bunch of people that will not take their course. They're going to go off on their own. I'm not going to be a tomato. I'm going to be a coconut tree. I'm not going to be a guy. I'm going to be a girl. God didn't set you up for that, so it's going to fail miserably. But you can be redeemed. That's the beauty of it. But there's just something He set up for us to do, and we have to find out what that is and then flow with it. Receive it. There's a lot of things in the Bible where you need to receive something with humility, which means I don't know as much as you know, but I'm going to go along with you because I trust you. Everybody talks about faith, but they don't think if without obedience, faith is nothing. You're not, I have all this faith, but nothing ever seems to happen. Well, because God told you to do this, and you didn't do it. And until you do, you're going to keep getting the same bad results. Remember, practice makes permanent if you're doing the wrong thing. Okay? And so we don't want to do that. If you go to Psalm 1, in 1 through 5, we're going to do. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Sounds like good advice so far. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And it doesn't mean the 10 Commandments. It means what God has set up. That's the law. Okay? When you talk about if you had the faith of a grain of mustard seed, and it's the smallest of all the seeds, right? So people think it means if I just had that much little bit of a faith. No, it's got faith you can't believe, because it's going to be a bush that would fill up this room right here above me, okay, from a seed this big. So it's not the seed size that's whose faith is that small. It's got buckets of faith to think it's going to go from that to what it's going to become. But how does it do it? It has to go along with this thing God set up, the course. Okay? You want to get through college, you got to do a course, don't you? And there's some parts that you think, well, that's great. It's directly involved in what I'm going to be doing. But then you got to pass speech. Nancy's always had to teach speech, and the kids are going, why do I need speech? I'm going to be an engineer. Because at some point you're going to have to get up and talk to somebody. And why do I need this? Why do I need that? Well, it's like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. Why do I need to learn that? Because when the guy goes to punch you, you go wax on, wax off. Okay? Sometimes you're learning things you don't think are relevant to what you're trying to become. But the teacher and the people who set up the course know what you need to know. Okay? I'm in the Navy. Why do I need to learn how to swab a deck? Because you're going to be out on a ship in the middle of the ocean and your mom's not there to clean up after you. And you're going to have to learn to keep this ship shape. Okay? You went in the engine room on the Enterprise, you could eat off the decks. They shined like they were brand new. Why? Because somebody had to learn how to keep it clean. Once a month they had a field day, they called it. They'd come around with white gloves. They found some dirt on that white glove. Now you got to get after what you didn't get after in the first place. Okay? There's always, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Not collateral damage, but collateral something you need to learn to be successful in what you're going to do. And sometimes it doesn't seem like they're connected, but they are. And so, let's see. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. Okay, I did that. He meditates on it day and night. Okay? They want you to meditate and clear your brain out. Well, that's okay. But then fill it up with something good. Because you know what happens if you get rid of all the demons and then you leave it nice and clean. Squatters come in. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. That's what they noticed about Joseph. That's why they kept putting him in charge of everything. He's like that King Midas. Everything he touched turned to gold. Well, that's God. That's God honoring you and rewarding you for your obedience. Okay? I mean, you know that much just from training a dog. If you keep, every time it does something good, you give it a treat, why, it's smart enough, just a dog, to know that that's a good idea. And so, I mean, you can take a whale that's bigger than from me to Danny, and that wide, and every time it does something you tell it to and you throw it a fish, it's gonna catch on. Well, why don't people catch on? I don't know sometimes. Let's see, where were we at? What's the next one? The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Okay, they're not producing fruit. They're trying to cover up the fruit. And you got to peel it off, or, if I want to eat a banana, I got to peel it. And I don't usually do nothing really constructive with that banana peel. Just throw it away. Next one. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Is there another one? Is that, for the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. And that's just what that's the law. It's set up that way. He doesn't have to go out of his way to punish somebody. Their actions will punish them themselves. So, people say, oh, God's punishing me because I did this. No, if you were stupid enough to do it, that's the punishment is built in. Okay? I take a knife and cut myself with it. That's not God punishing me. That's me being stupid with a knife. It's amazing sometimes how weird we are. If you could give me Psalm 92, verse 12. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. Does everybody like palm trees? Except if you're under it when a coconut falls or something, but other than that, they seem to be something laid back, You associate it with warm weather and swaying. So, The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. How does a cedar in Lebanon grow? All you got to do is go Yosemite or somewhere and see one of them redwood trees or cedars. I mean, they're huge just from that side to that side. Okay? You can cut a hole through it and drive a car through it. They're amazing. They're fireproof. They got a bark about this thick, but it's like fiber. You know, it's not like bark on an oak tree or something. It's like you can punch it and it's spongy. And it grows up to 300-400 feet tall. Its only problem is wind. Because when you look up at the top, you only see a little bit of branches sticking out. In trees, however much branches you see sticking out, that's how much root system is mirrored in the bottom, underground. So they only got about 5 feet of roots for a 300-foot tall tree. So a fire can come through, bugs, through cedar. So they kill bugs. Bugs can't get them, fire can't get them, but wind can get them. We have to be careful. We can be great and mighty in the Lord and let winds and doctrines of men push us over. So we have to be careful of that. Okay? So we can grow like a cedar in Lebanon. They make great wood for whatever you want to make. Okay? Go to the next one, please. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. If you know, where you're planted is important, isn't it? I mean, we got some plants that if you put them in too much sunlight, and some if you put them in too much shade, then you got some that can tolerate either one pretty good. Let's see, did I want to go further than that? Or is that 14? They shall still bring forth fruit in old age. Here I am. I'm still bringing forth some kind of fruit. Okay? They shall be fat and flourishing. I got that one down pretty good. Check it out. I'm bearing fruit. This is a watermelon here. Okay, and to show that the Lord is upright, He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in Him. And guess what? When He's done with me, there won't be any unrighteousness in me. And He's shooting for that in all of us. What's this fruit we're going to bear? We'll see later on, but I'll do a spoiler alert. It's the fruit of the Spirit. Okay? All those things are going to be in us, dwelling in us. They're there now. They just need to be developed. Okay? They need to be brought to the surface and then put into use. You know, I like the word goodness. It just sits there and we just don't think much of it, but it means that I'm pleasant to be around or you're pleasant to be around. I don't want to see you and run and hide. Okay? Uh-oh, here she is again. I'm sick of this. So I'm going to try to sneak away without being seen. You know, no, God doesn't want us to be like that. Okay? It also means that you're useful. You know, somebody comes in and somebody goes, "Oh, that guy's useless." No, you don't want them to think of you that way. Why? It reflects on God. For one thing, He's trying to change change you from an Adam jerk to a nice person, to a Christ-like person. And so you're going to be useful. You're going to be pleasant to be around. I had somebody say something to me when I was retiring at the party. They said, you know, we had different places where we could work in the yard, Wixom or Wayne or Rouge Plant. And sometimes one place isn't so busy and the other place is, so they take people to the busy place. And one guy said every time they did that, they'd tell us, you know, we're sending somebody to help you. And they'd say, who are you sending? And if they said me, they all like, ah. No, I didn't try to do that. I just was being me. I was being like him. They're the ones that recognized it, because sometimes they are going to send somebody to you that you don't want to be around all day. And so when people tell me stuff like that, unsolicited or whatever you want, I didn't try to tell them to say that. You know, a guy in jail telling me I look like a peacemaker, I didn't know he was going to say that. But people watch you, and they recognize certain things. And so, to me, that's God telling me you're on the right track. And it's a reward. It's a reward to know that stuff, to encourage you, to keep doing it. And not just for yourself, but when you can do that for people, make them relax and be at peace because of your being there, that's something. That's saying something for God and for you. That's fruit. That's something pleasant. That's a reward. And so, you know, well, I got through two more. Two more to go before we switch over to some more stuff. But, you know, when everybody listens to God, obeys God, everybody profits all around. You profit, people around you profit, your children profit. Whatever you have authority over profits. Everything God does increases and gets better. And you're instrumental in that. Okay, I'd rather have people be glad to see me than go, oh no, not him again. So, the Lord said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. And that's what happens when you're Christ-like. You think them little kids came running to him because he had candy and a quarter to give them? No, they just felt great around him. I was in Sarah's house yesterday, and their dog, there's so many people, and they're all wanting to, and the dog is like doing this all over the place all the time. Well, they were all in the kitchen because they're remodeling and looking at it and everything. And I was just in the thing, sitting on the couch, not even watching TV or nothing, just sitting there. And the dog came, did its thing, laid down next to my feet, spread itself out, and just sat there for that whole time I was sitting there until somebody came in the house. Then she got spastic again. So you have an effect on people, and that's good. So